This is my second time in Canada. This is my first time in Toronto. And let me say that it's a beautiful city and wonderful people. Thank you for having me here. People give me credits more than I deserve. Some people see me as a hero, and many people see me as a traitor. And I ask myself, am I any of these? I don't think so. I am myself. I did a couple of things in the past, but simply they are part of the past. What really matters is the challenge of today. The past is over. The future, I didn't know anything about it. And life is this moment, right here, right now.
Amen.
I am not a hero, and I don't want to be a hero. When I wrote Son of Hamas, the goal was not to be a hero. In fact, this book crucified me. This book caused lots of pain in my life and disappointed the hearts of my parents. None of us wants to disappoint the heart of their parents. And none of us want to lose their identity. Everybody wants to be accepted, protected, and find a community where they can fit. I had all that, and in writing this book, I lost all of it. And I went to the great unknown. This is the most scary thing that a human being is afraid of, the great unknown. If I lose everything, lose my identity, my people, nationality, where I'm going to go after? And who's going to accept me? Who will understand where I'm coming from or how I feel every day about life problems? But for the sake of the love of Christ, everything is possible.
Amen.
My name is Mosab Hassan Yousef. I'm the oldest son of Sheikh Hassan Yousef. Mosab was one of Muhammad's best friends, Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. Unlike all Muhammad's followers, Mosab came from a rich and influential family. Most of Muhammad's followers at that time were mostly slaves and from the low class. But Mosab left everything to follow the Prophet of Islam. For that, Muhammad appointed him as the first Islamic ambassador. My father was very inspired by Mus'ab's story. So he named me Mus'ab 10 years before I was born. In fact, he named me before he met my mother. This is how much expectations my father had from me at some point. My father is a leader of the Muslim Brotherhood and a leader of Hamas organization. How many of us know what Hamas is? And how many of us know what hummus is? Hamas, at some point, was our project. It was my project, our business, our identity. And I had very high hopes that Hamas and Islam will bring peace and justice to the world. This is what most Muslims wish for. It's a noble thing. It's not a bad thing. And it's a great cause. But what Muslims don't ask themselves, as I did not ask myself when I was living their reality, that what is the real nature of Islam. And this is what we're going to extend on tonight. I'm very glad that we have some Muslims here tonight. I wish that we had more Muslims. They're my family. And my message mainly is to my people. I am not here as part of any propaganda. I don't have any political agendas. And I'm not here to create Islamophobic thing. That's not my job. My message is a message of hope, a message of peace that is based on the truth and the solid facts that nobody can deny. Not the reality the way I see it. This is not what I'm presenting tonight. Now, growing up in a very conservative Muslim family that is deeply involved in politics, in the heart of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, was not a normal thing. In fact, many of the Muslims, Arabs, did not get the opportunity to see things, many things, that I had to see about the real nature of Islam. I did not understand it when I was a child, but I totally understand it today. And every day I live, I learn more about the hell of that religion and the slavery that my people still living under. My father was arrested by the Israelis for being involved in Hamas organization. I didn't know at that time that he was one of the founding members of Hamas. The Israeli soldiers came to our house and they asked him to get himself ready. I asked the soldiers, "Where are you taking him?" They said, or they answered, "We're taking him only for 5 minutes and we will bring him." As a child, I went outside and I kept waiting. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, couple of hours, he did not come back. He came back a year and a half later. Now I want from all of us to step into the shoes of that child and how you're going to feel about people who came to kidnap your dad. Your dad is everything for you as a child. He's your God. Now, how would you feel about that? Living next to a graveyard, witnessing all the bloodshed. Many Palestinian victims and friends were killed during the Palestinian First Intifada. Of course, it was very hard for me to see the reality, why people were dying. In fact, I never questioned. It was very easy to blame everything on Israel. I am not saying that there was no use of force. Yes, there was. But always there were limits. But I never questioned my father and his business, or the PLO and its business. And what was the real goal for them? Was it the people, the cause, the Palestinian cause, the Islamic cause, or it was their personal agendas? Anyway, I hated the Israelis. I had personal, political, national, and ideological reasons to hate the state of Israel. And today I ask a very important question: is the conflict in the Middle East political or racial? Do Arabs hate Israel because it's considered by the United Nations as occupying country, or because it's a Jewish state? And the reality and I'm very sorry to say this, that Israel is hated in the Middle East because it's a Jewish country. And this is the main reason. Yes, there are political reasons, as I said, but the most important dimension of this conflict is the ideological dimension of it. I know this because I know what Islam is all about. And we are going to talk about this in details. Now, at the age of 17, I was ready to take revenge. Take revenge from the enemies of the nation, the enemies of Allah, the enemies of Palestinians, and the enemies of humanity. This is how I saw that. While Israel, as a democratic country, respects the human rights, even during a dirty war against terrorism, still keeps the human rights and takes in consideration this issue, we blamed Israel that it was the enemy of humanity. What a lie. Our people, Palestinians and Arabs in general, we like to export all our problems and blame it on something. Once on Israel, once again on America, the West, and we never had the courage to face the fundamental issues that we suffer from as Arab nation. A common enemy that brings everybody together, Israel. But we never questioned, is Israel the real enemy that we're facing? Or we have much more dangerous enemies who live among us? So I was ready to make my parents proud of me, my nation proud of me, and take revenge from the Israelis. What would you be today if you were born in a Palestinian refugee camp facing all these social and political and other problems? What would you be today? Would you be able to make it all the way from a refugee camp to stand here and tell the truth, losing everything that is important in your life? Well, I hope that this will be the challenge for many people, because I took the challenge and I'm proud of this journey. I am happy that I can see things that many people can't see. Yes, it's lonely and it's dangerous, but I can see. And this is what really matters. I was arrested by the Israelis. And in prison, I discovered the brutality of Hamas. Many people think I exaggerate when I talk about Hamas brutality. In fact, many Palestinians did not see Hamas brutality till Hamas took over Gaza Strip. In prison, now imagine me, a young man, 18 years old, hearing people screaming day and night. And I was asking, what's going on? Nobody had the courage to answer that question. Finally, I got to know that those people were suspicious of having a relationship with the Israeli intelligence and giving information about Hamas and other Palestinian factions. They were tortured to death. And you can ask the Palestinian Authority, and you can ask the Israeli Authority. There are records of this brutality. Imagine Hamas security wing guys putting needles under prisoners' fingernails and burning their bodies. During the time I was in prison, 16 people were killed and hundreds were tortured. So now I'm not talking about a couple of events here and there. No, we're talking about hundreds of prisoners, Palestinian prisoners, especially Hamas members, who were tortured and killed on the hands of my father's organization, Hamas. Now, let me go back a few months before that discovery. I was offered by the Israeli intelligence to work for the state of Israel. Now, how can you convince a son of a top Hamas leader to work for the state of Israel, who witnessed the soldiers taking his father and had to suffer and witness the sufferings of his mother and his brothers and sisters? How can you convince him? Somebody who's considered as a religious Palestinian, coming from a very conservative family that is involved in politics and religion. How can you convince someone? Is it money? Will money satisfy anybody in a situation like that? I don't think so. My first motivation was to take revenge from the Israeli intelligence. And I thought that I could take revenge from them by fooling them and giving the information back to Hamas. So I said yes. It was an initiative from me. It was not a plan from Hamas. Nobody knew about it. Now, I was sent to prison as a cover. The Israeli intelligence told me, if we release you, you will be exposed. You go to prison, spend some time, and make everybody believe that you're a Hamas member like everybody else. Now, here I am in prison, witnessing the brutality of Hamas. Don't forget now that I was a target. Because why Hamas was torturing people? Because they had a relationship with the Israeli intelligence. Practically, I had a relationship with the Israeli intelligence. So what Hamas is going to do to me right now? Are they going to torture me as well? Well, I went to the Hamas security wing guys, those tough guys who were killing and torturing people on a daily basis. And I told them, guys, I gave my word for the Israeli intelligence to work for them. And I think this is our opportunity to infiltrate the Israeli intelligence and do what we can. You know what the answer was? You forget about this story forever. Don't ever mention this story again, and don't have any contact with the Israeli intelligence no matter what. I said, why? Why not? It's a great opportunity, it's a good plan. They said, what if this news leaks to media? How the image of the movement will be next day? Aren't you afraid that your dad will be embarrassed and the entire movement, this amazing project that we have, the entire Islamic project? You forget about the story and don't tell anybody about it. And I was not tortured. There were some prisoners, they didn't do anything. They just did a naive mistake that looked like that they were communicating with the Israeli intelligence and they were tortured to death. So now here's another problem, hypocrisy. And it's all about the image. It's all about the force of shame that we're going to talk about. This is a shameful thing. You will shame the entire movement. Bury it forever. I start to question the real nature of Hamas, but that was not an easy thing to do. Why? Because as I said, Hamas was our business. Now imagine yourself growing up in a family that is involved in the mafia work. And because of your family's business, you drive all sport cars, have nice clothes, and have prestige. Would you care very much about the real nature of the business of your family? Once you start to question that, you start to compromise the privileges that you have. And this will take you out of your comfortable zone. And it will put your life at risk, and you might lose your family. In fact, your family will be in danger. It's a similar scenario. Now, Hamas was our business. It's our reputation. It's everything. If I question Hamas, first of all, I would be questioning myself. I would be questioning my identity. And what if Hamas was not good for the Palestinian cause and my people? What if I discover that? Will I go and face everything and lose my identity and go to the great unknown that I told you about? That was a very scary thing. But I was very curious to know what was going on. I witnessed enough violence. Unlike many Palestinian children, our families suffered very much for the Palestinian cause, and still suffering. My father was arrested just 10 days ago, maybe for the 25th time. Spent more than 16 years in Israeli prisons because of the Hamas business. I personally had to take responsibility for my family when I was 10 years old. 10 years old. Most children were enjoying their parents. I'm talking about Palestinian children right now. I was kidnapped, I was beaten. I have all the reasons. I can keep going on and on and on about all my frustration as a child growing up in that environment. So when some people come and try to judge me, I tell them, first of all, why don't you go there to Gaza or to the West Bank and suffer with the Palestinian people to know what suffering means before you come and defend the Palestinian cause? Most Palestinians and Arabs living here, enjoying the Western civilization and the liberty of the West, sitting in their comfortable zones, want from my family to go to death, want Palestinian children to keep dying so they can approve a political point of view here in the West. This is what they're trying to do. And I question those guys because I know their real nature. Because I worked in intelligence and we spied on every Palestinian leader and every Islamic leader in that country, and all we found that those people have personal agendas that is wrapped by a noble cause called Palestinian cause. And it's the same reality here in the West. They know better. In fact, people here, Muslims and Arabs who live in the West, I think they are more hypocrite. And they don't learn. They see back home that we have human resources, natural resources. We have everything, and we are behind. Why are we behind? Why? What's the reason? We just enjoy the West, enjoy what liberty has to give, and we just blame everything on the West. In the same time. Now, after I was released from prison, I didn't want to work for Hamas, I didn't want to work for the Israeli intelligence. I received a phone call from the Israeli intelligence, and I was hesitant to go, but I thought, maybe I go for this meeting, and I say, I'm not interested, in a respectful way. I went to that meeting, and in the first meeting I learned that everybody who was tortured in prison, they had nothing to do with the Israeli intelligence. I asked a question. I said, we are here because you're trying to convince me to work for the state of Israel. Why the state of Israel did not care about its people in prison? People were dying every day. The Hamas members who worked for the Israeli intelligence, supposedly, were dying every day. Why Israel didn't care about its people? I was answered that question by other question. Did we connect you with anybody in prison? I said, no. He said, you were in prison for 16 months, and we did not connect you with anybody.